it's Dr. Pat, and today we're going to share what we learned during the pandemic in New Fairfield. And the reason we are doing this little video is because there's so much talk out in the country and the state about all of the learning loss. And although I'm sure there is some learning loss, there's also been a lot that's been learned by our staff and our students. So I wanted to take this time to just highlight some of the wonderful things that have been learned during the pandemic. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Smythe, and I'm a high school counselor. I work with grades 9 through 12, and I learned a lot from the pandemic. Number one, I learned that New Fairfield is here for their students in every way, shape, and form possible, and that we are accepting and have to understand sometimes that you have to let things go and move forward and make things work, no matter how you choose to do so, but that we're here for the students to help them, whether it's emotionally, academically, move forward in their lives and achieve success individually for the individual.
Hello, this is Eileen Connors. I'm Gianna Bach. And one thing that I've learned during the pandemic is how to do school online.
And one thing I learned was balancing school and my time during the pandemic.
Bonjour, cette année, j'ai vraiment appris à apprécier mes élèves.
That when you wear a mask, you have to keep them like over your nose.
So I think what I learned most during the pandemic is the importance of simplifying things. We were forced to simplify because there wasn't very much we could do at times during the pandemic, but I think as we moved on, we were able to really think about what's important both at school and in our personal lives. And what I found is that when we simplified the things that we do, the focus was really more on the students in the building, at home, really more on the relationships in our families, and I think that's the biggest thing that I took out of this past year.
Me and Luke learned how to sew. Thanks, Miss Brenlet.
The main thing I learned was just how to learn and adapt to new circumstances. Also, all my teachers taught me how to file tax reports, so that's pretty simple.
So what did we learn about technology this year? Well, I can say that our teachers took a crash course in learning a lot of different technology tools to reach kids in many different circumstances. They went from knowing nothing about Zoom and Screencastify and Seesaw to becoming experts over the course of the summer last year. And in terms of our kids learned not only how to use technology every day, but they really became very good at troubleshooting that technology. I sat behind a student in third grade last week during an observation and watched her troubleshoot the Wi-Fi on her Chromebook. And it was absolutely amazing to me, all the steps that she went through. That's what we learned with technology this year.
I am Nash, and I have learned from the pandemic that school is fun. Zoom is not better than being in school, and I get to meet new friends.
I was really impressed by the resilience that everybody had during all of this. With the pivoting from in-person to remote really was a challenge for everybody, but we just kept trucking along and we kept learning, and it really became a wonderful experience.
What I learned during the pandemic was how we all pulled together. Everybody helped each other out. We learned how to Zoom, and we all learned how to figure it out. It was a learning experience for everybody. And also learned how my blue hair made everybody happy.
Hi, I'm Natalina, and today in this year in science class, I learned about how cells are made and how they function.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and I learned in math how to change a decimal to percent and how to do like the increasing and decreasing and a bunch of other stuff.
This year I learned to really appreciate my students. They're what it's all about.
What I learned during the pandemic was to control the things you can't control. Don't worry about the things outside of your control. Take things one day at a time, and that above all, rebels will prevail, come out on top. Go Rebs.
We learned to keep our masks on, and we learned 3 plus 3 equals 6.
I learned to love your family as much as possible, love the little ones, because you never know what life is going to be. And I'm glad we're kind of getting back to what we consider normal. Go Rebels.
Hi, I'm Dr. C, and you are?
Hello, go.
Emma.
Emma.
That's right. And we both learned to let it go.
Oh.
Yes, absolutely. Let it go.
I'm Lori Cipriani. I'm the middle school nurse. What I learned this year during the pandemic is that it really does take a team to make it work. We started last summer working together to collaborate, and really everybody's ideas were put into the mix, and I really think that's why we were so successful. So I've learned that I can count on my coworkers and that it's much, more efficient and enjoyable to do this together because we're all in it together, and that's what matters.
What I learned during the pandemic is that masks are great. No flus, no colds, no viruses, social distancing, wash your hands and wear a mask.
This year during the pandemic, I learned that it's much nicer to work with people than it is to work at home.
One thing I learned from the COVID-19 pandemic is that it kind of affected how school was a lot, and it was difficult, in my opinion, a little more difficult than most years.
That staff and students are extremely resilient, and I'm really proud of the fact that our kids were able to sit in classrooms for 6 hours a day and never complained and have worked really hard, and I'm really proud of the staff. They've done the same. They've come to work sometimes just sad or just struggling and put their heads on and just did an amazing job. I'm really proud of all that we've accomplished so far this year.
One thing I learned is that we don't give children enough credit. They did better wearing the masks than we had anticipated. They did better keeping the distance than we had anticipated. And they also did much better academically than we all thought they would.
And one thing that I've learned is how to really listen, because we couldn't have done what we did this year without listening to teachers and families and paraprofessionals and all stakeholders. So that was important.
What I have learned over the pandemic is that you have to cherish everyone that you have beside you or around you, because you never know what can happen to them the next day.
I've learned that even though times could be hard, you still have to persevere through, and you'll get where you want to get to.
Make sure to check up on your friends, because you never know what they're going through.
And if you need any help, ask the teachers, because there's always support here.
During the pandemic, I learned from the food service perspective that, there's a lot of interest in there in the program, and that we are able to turn on a dime and become flexible and change our ways and deliver to classrooms. And I've also learned that being in New Fairfield, what a wonderful community it is. We had a lot of people that were coming during the original days out to the sidewalks and picking up meals. And we served thousands and thousands of meals that way, and we had great feedback, and it's really a very tight-knit and wonderful community out there.
During the pandemic, I learned how to moderate webinars online and on Facebook.
Multiplication and division and time. I learned how to do multiplication and division and how to hit baseballs far.
I learned how to code and do multiplication and division.
I want to be a catcher in baseball.
I learned that I'm stronger. I survived through COVID-19.
That I have more courage than I thought.
The importance of social distancing, and I practiced all the baseball positions.
To push myself to do more challenges. This year I learned how to use acrostic, multiplication, and division.
I learned how to get stronger at division and learn more and harder division facts.
This year I learned to be brave and keep me and other people safe. This year I learned the tandem algorithm and multiplication. I learned multiplication, division, and times.
The one thing I learned during the pandemic is to find new and creative ways to connect with the students. And it got us to think in new, positive ways, and I really loved it and enjoyed it, so thank you.
What I learned from this year is even when times are tough, like what's going on with COVID, you still have to find a way to make something good out of it, because even though it might seem bad on the outside, you can make something really good out of it on the inside.
So what did I learn this year? I learned that we need to be flexible, we have to build relationships first, and always be looking for the underlying silver and gold that can come out of bad situations.
Even in a pandemic, kids have to eat, and we're feeding them.
How to do the alphabet. We learned how to be best friends.
Well, what I learned during the pandemic is that no matter what's going on in the world, it's most important to be kind to each other and to help our friends.
I learned in the pandemic hiding the self video in a Zoom meeting so I didn't have to stare at myself during the meeting was a game changer.
It's been a great year. I think 5th grade was one of the best years I've ever had because I made new friends and the masks was a new thing to try out.
During the pandemic, I learned that there is no length that teachers won't go to make sure that students are successful.
My name is Madeline, and I think that if you're wearing, if you're going to a place that allows you not to wear a mask, I think you should still wear your mask just to be safe.
Guess what I learned from the pandemic is that sometimes life throws you curves and you have to be flexible, and if you are, you'll be fine.
As you can see, we learned a ton of things in New Fairfield. What did I learn? I learned to don't worry about things that I can't control. I also learned to let things go and take the high road when things get a little difficult and I get a little stressed. Most importantly, I was always reminded about the kindness of others and to be kind to everyone because you don't know what they're going through. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I can't wait till we get back to school next year, hopefully back to normal as much as we can. And just a message from our little preschoolers right now.
Happy summer!